Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. In today's session, we have done a lot of models and this learning series going on and go forth. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important aspect of facilitation. Now, how do you enhance the learning experiences? How do you enhance the way the program feedback is happening? How do you enhance the level of engagement that can increase and as good as becoming one of the master trainers in what you do? So Gagné's 9 level of facilitation, that's one of the key aspect of what people say, the 9 levels of facilitation experience. If you can use all of them, they say what you become is one of the finest facilitation experiences that a learner can go through. So today we're going to focus on Gagné's 9 level of facilitation, enhancing learning experiences. It's basically a framework for effective teaching and learning. Now, to be honest with you, the 9 levels are created from a perspective of facilitation as a thought. So what we'll do is we'll try to do an introduction of the 9 levels of facilitation. Then level 1, gaining attention. Level 2, informing learners of the objective. Level 3, stimulating recall or prior learning. Level 4, presenting the content. Level 5, providing learning guidance. Level 6, eliciting performance. Level 7, providing feedback. Level 8, assessing performance. And level 9, enhancing retention and knowledge transfer. Now, if you look at this based on the 9 levels, I mean, a lot of people might say 1, 2, or 3 levels, but Gagné's 9 level is a bit of a tricky ride. I mean, following 9 levels in a facilitation point of view, it's not that easy. And if you adhere to the process and practice, it becomes that easy. So it's both the ways. On one way, if you remember all the levels, you can go ahead and implement whatever you're looking at. If you do not recall or do not remember, again, the last part, enhancing retention and knowledge transfer, might not happen properly. Now, to give you a brief introduction to Gagné's 9 level of facilitation, the first is why he created this. And the purpose and significance is very simple. It creates a comprehensive guide. It's not an incomprehensive guide. It's a comprehensive guide. Why it's a comprehensive guide? Because it speaks about gaining attention, then sharing the learner objectives, then there are prior recall of knowledge, then there are engagement techniques, then there are knowledge transfer. That's why it's a comprehensive guide of the 9 models or the 9 levels. It also creates an amazing engagement among learners, because if you follow that process, it creates a different experience in facilitation. And most importantly, it creates an effective learning experiences. See, in this channel, as long as we have spoken about Kolb model, we have spoken about the Felder Silverman model, and we'll speak many more. One thing everyone, even Gagné, even Malcolm Knowles, even Bloom's, these all people have one thing in common, that is effective learning and learner's experience throughout. I mean, even though if I think of adult learning method, which was first coined by Alexander Knapp in around 1866 probably, and in that case, what happens is these old people, the Knowles, the Benjamin Blooms, the Kolb, the Felder Silverman model, they are common in one way: effective learning and learner experience from both the sides. And once you deliver, you will be able to understand why it is so impactful. The second is the application. So the way they're doing a classroom learning or they're doing online learning, you always meet the learner needs. And that's why this model is so popular. We will not take a very deep down in this entire model. We'll try to highlight the key pointers of this model, as this model itself is so huge that probably a 1-day or 2-day classroom training can be done on each and every topic with role plays, with customized learning techniques, and so on. That's why we have kept it very simple. We have kept it, what is the core fact of that level? So if I'm saying gaining learner retention, then what is that core thing that we need to do out there is the basic fundamental of this video or of this session. So level 1, gaining attention. Now, if you're a facilitator, and I think one of the major challenges post-COVID we face today, whether we're doing a virtual or an in-person session, is how do we gain attention? What are the various modes of gaining attention? Some might say storytelling, some might say start with a fact, some might say do an activity. But what exactly gaining attention means? It is the importance of capturing the learner's attention. So please understand, the people who have come in there, either they are asked to visit that because the need is there from a manager perspective, or they have chosen by themselves. But in every aspect, those people, those adult learners, are always in thought that, okay, what will happen? Are we going to learn something new today? How will it go? Shouldn't it be very engaging? I don't want a boring workshop. It should have fun. So the expectation is huge. And because the expectation is huge, it is very important at the beginning of the program that you can capture the learner's attention. Now, how do you capture a learner's attention? First, setting the learning stage. You tell them, what is this learning stage is all about, how many number of hours you're going to spend here, what is the ideation of this learning stage, how did this learning stage came into existence, what are the steps that you took to come into this learning stage, what are the various ways that you think to do these things. Maybe the initial is a virtual learning followed by a one-day in-person workshop. So, you set the learning stage. Then you tell them the impact on the information that they will absorb. How will they absorb information? So they will do a lot of other things, maybe a role plays, a case studies. So you're gaining an attention, you're creating a learning hook so that every one of the room, because of different styles, different thought processes, different perceptions, different personalities, can come under one roof at one single agenda. Another one is effective storytelling. You can start with a workshop with a storytelling, but never do a storytelling. If you're doing a leadership workshop, have a leadership storytelling. If you're having a time management workshop, have a time management storytelling. If you're having a communication workshop, have a communication storytelling. So the storytelling has to match. In my experience, very few facilitators I have seen where they can start with a different storytelling and then can link it back to gaining the learner's attention. The few best practices are effective storytelling. Then you can use interactive polls. So by the starting of the session, you just do a poll. You do a poll using Mentimeter and show the answers on the screen. So, for example, what do you think are the best characteristics of a high performance team? Or what do you think is the best leadership style? Or how many number of styles do you have in a leader? So when you do this interactive polls, people will start using their mobile phones and they will start putting up points. With those points, you gain the attention. Okay, now what we are doing is out there. You can use thought-provoking visuals. You can go to various websites within your company's IPR laws. Cannot pick up an image which is being already copyrighted. So try to have free images somewhere. You can go to various free websites where you can, in the PowerPoint also, you can go to graphics and everything, and they will give you those images that you can use from there. So effective storytelling, interactive polls, and thought-provoking visuals. That is how you gain attention of the audience. Level 2 is informing learner of the objective. So now we have got the attention towards the facilitator. You have gained the attention of the learners using a poll, using those keywords. You have gained the attention by an impact stage of the learning. After doing all these things, now you have to inform the learner of the objectives of the program. Now remember, attention and objective has to be connected. If it is disconnected, then the learner, even though you have gotten attention, they will be disconnected. So how do I or what are the ways that I can inform learners of the objectives? First, set up a clear goal. What is going to happen? How it is going to happen? Why is it going to happen? Once you set that clear goal for your learners, if you're doing a leadership workshop, state what model will you use, what you're looking at the first half, what you're looking at the second half. If you're an online training for 2 hours, divide that 2 hours. Also share the break timing, and then you go to understanding their expectations. So when you're setting clear goal for learners, you also have to understand their expectations from a learner perspective. You have to create a roadmap for success for this program. And that you do it here once you set a clear goal for learners. And it will also enhance motivation. That means they will be willing to participate in this workshop because now the goal is clear. So for example, in a leadership workshop, I can go ahead and we'll start with typical definition of leadership. Then we'll go and understand the leadership style using a leadership assessment where you yourself will try and understand what is your style. We'll try to find out what is the best style for which situation. And then you will go with the follower identification. Then we'll go with team need. See what I'm doing? I am creating a clear goal. And by doing that, the moment I say, okay, now guys, can you tell me what do you expect? Or I can now introduce an activity, a post-it activity where I say, okay, this is one post-it, you write down your expectation and stick it to the chart paper. So, that's how you understand expectations. Once the expectation is over, then you clearly state them, okay, this is the roadmap for success. If we follow these guidelines in this particular workshop, and ultimately it will enhance their motivation and increase their learning and increase their attention span, so does the engagement. Now, once we have got the attention, once we have set the goals very clear, we have clearly set the objectives of the program, now we'll get into stimulating recall of prior learning. Now, this is typically a level which you typically use when you're doing a 2-day workshop or you have done a workshop before and now you want to do a recall of learning, or you can set up a kind of a Q&A, again using a poll or a Mentimeter, all other virtual ways, so that you set up, okay, what do you understand by leadership? You can use 1, 2, or 3 words. So basically this level is to stimulate recall of prior learning if they have any. What are the ways? One, I can do a brainstorming technique. So I can start the session by saying, what? Before we get into the definitions of leadership, before we get into understanding of the leadership, before we get into the notions of leadership, let us brainstorm about topic, and then you list down on the chart paper stating that this is what we are looking at, and we brainstorm for 15 minutes and let's come up with what the discussion is. It's an open house. So by doing that, you're trying to recall any prior learning if they have, because it is not very often that they have attended a workshop, or it is also they have attended a workshop but they have forgot things. So brainstorming is one of the beautiful techniques. Second is educational discussion. So you put a kind of a, let's say, what Peter Drucker said about leadership, or what Benjamin Bloom spoke about leadership, or what Paul Hershey spoke about leadership, what Kenneth Blanchett spoke about leadership. And then you say, okay, based on this, why can't we have an educational discussions about what these persons are saying? And the third is use of visual aids. You put in what was happened before, you put in the leadership definition, and use visual aids. You can use chart papers, you can use post-its, you can use workbooks, you can use other materials that you are available for visual aids. See, the need for strategies of recalling prior learning is to get them to a point where the learning increases. And I can give an example of this. So one fine day, a monk wanted to visit a Kung Fu learning academy, and which is supposed to be the best in the world at that point of time. And this monk went there and met the principal of the college, or the principal of the academy. Now, what did the principal do? The principal took a bowl and started pouring tea into it. And he was very happy that the principal is giving me a cup of tea, which means I'm feeling great. But the principal continues pouring the tea into the cup, and goes on till the cup is full, the tea spills out, and suddenly the monk screams and says, "Principal, what are you doing? The cup is full." And then the principal looks at him and says, "What is your cup size? Is it full or is it empty?" Because if it is not empty, then I need to use and recall those strategies so that that cup can become empty and I can pour in more knowledge. That's the ideation of this particular level. Level 4. Now I have gained the attention, I've set the objectives, I've done a strategical input, or I've done an activity to recall prior learning. Now I am presenting the content. Now, when I'm presenting the content, now See, I built a story. I set the objectives. I did a prior recall. Now all this is done. Now I will be displaying the content. Now, okay, displaying the content would be, just running through the slides. Displaying of content can be, okay, this is what we're talking about, what you do, what you do not do, or let's say we watch a video. So presenting a content can be of various types. So let us understand what are the delivery methods that we can do for the effective presentation of the content. We can use lectures, although I have my own thought process that lectures are kind of a no-go in the current setup, specifically post-COVID, because not many corporate training program would appreciate a lecture. But if you set the objective, so typically this is what I do. So I will just narrate a typical how I start a workshop. Yeah, good morning guys, this is Gabriel. I will be here to take you through the Communicating with Impact program. And in the Communicating with Impact program, it is divided into 4 parts. Day 1, first half, 1, 2, 3, 4. Day 2, second half, 1, 2, 3, 4. Day 2, first half, 1, 2, 3, 4. And day 2, second half, 1, 2, 3, 4. So day 1, first half, day 2, second half, day 2, first half, day 2, second half. What we are doing is we are breaking it, because it's a long program. So you're breaking it in bit size so that they're able to understand. And then I tell them that, you know what, in one of these 4 areas, there would be a specific time when I might get into a lecture mode, because there are a few concepts which I believe have to be delivered. What am I doing? I am making them very clear of the intention so that the roadmap to success happens very well. I am going ahead and giving up from a lecture point of view that, I may have to use this technique at one point of time, maybe on day 1 first half, maybe on day 1 second half, maybe on day 2 first half, or maybe on day 2 second half. I mean, if I prepare them, they will not get into that kind of a mode that why is he getting into a lecture mode? Because I have done it previously, because I have told them very clearly that this is what I'm willing to do, they will be very clear in that process. Second, you can do discussions, group discussions, team discussions, individual discussions. One of the effective delivery mode for a conflict management workshop that I've done is, after the case study was done, I said the discussion will happen in 3 folds. First, your discussion will have with yourself. Second, your discussion will have within your team. And third, the discussion will happen with all the teams. And then I said that the reason I'm doing so is because I'm willing to get up to a perspective of the reasons for conflict. And you yourself will be exhibiting and going through all this possibility of the reasons for conflict. And once you tell them to do it, they're okay about it, because you have briefed them very clearly what you're looking at. You have told them that, this is what it's going to happen. So they'll get into the discussion mode. The person who finishes first will wait for the other people to complete. And then when you go back, and that's one of the effective delivery methods, then ask what happened. When you're having a discussion within yourself, what was the area of conflict? When you had the same discussion within your team, did the reason change or any new reason came up for conflict? And when you had the discussion among all team members, did it change? See, basically what I'm trying to tell you is, you can let them know what is going to happen. And then hands-on activities. It can be an activity or a role play. It can be a simulation one. You can devise activities based on the competencies, and then you can let them do the activities and make the, however, the brief and the debrief of this particular hands-on activities has to be very, very strong. If it is not strong, it will lose the learning value from there. So one is lecture, is discussion, then is hand-on activities. You can also use multimedia resources. How? It can be used to enhance engagement. As I said, a video, or maybe somebody said something, or maybe you can show them a clip or a cartoon. I remember in one of the workshops I attended once, they used Dilbert cartoon statements speaking about time management. So, you can use multimedia resources. but why shall I use multimedia resources for my delivery? Because I said in the previous one, we can use lectures, we can use discussions, we can use hand-on activities, but we shouldn't only stick to that, because it enhances the engagement. It creates a dynamic learning experience. It gives a variety of resource to have with. So people do not get bored, and most importantly, the engagement experience. Because you're using lecture, because you're using multimedia, because you're using dynamic learning experience, it creates a plethora of way people can learn. And when adults learn, when they find the need to learn, when they are motivated to learn, and these are the ways you motivate them to learn. So we spoke about the 4 levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So level 1, gaining attention; level 2, setting a clear goal, very good; level 3, recalling of knowledge; level 4, enhanced facilitation tools; and now providing learning guidance. Now, if you stick from a point of view of what is the learning guidance, let me take you through. It enhances understanding. Okay, one of the things I can say is, you're looking at them, you're building that body language, you're building confidence in them when you're speaking with high of energy and you're guiding them through a learning. That energy, that enhances the understanding between the learners. And if it enhances the understanding between the learners, it will build confidence among the learners. Okay, it can go ahead and create a pattern of building confidence inside the learners. And the last part is, it reduces confusion. It reduces confusion among the learners. And the moment it creates reduction, the moment it creates the reduction of confusion, what happens is they build confidence. And the moment they build confidence, they enhance their understanding of that knowledge. Because if they don't understand this, in the next workshop, when you do that level 3, recalling of knowledge, it will never happen. Or they might forget. You might have to get into that role to, remind them what it is, and you lose the engagement facilitation. Once we have done the guidance of learning, we come to the 6th level, which is eliciting performance. When you say eliciting performance, that means we have shared the agenda, we have gained the attention, we have done the recalling of prior knowledge, we have created a learner guidance, and now we want them to perform. We want them to get into that kind of a group where they're looking at from the perspective of eliciting performance. How? Active engagement, collaborative activities, interactive discussions, group projects, presentations. So let me take you through one by one. Let's say you are saying that, what we'll do right now is, I'm going to give you 4 questions. Okay. And you give them a visual to 4 different teams and say, answer me this question. Is this communication? If yes, why do you think it's communication? And if no, why do you think it's not a communication? And the last question is this communication effective? With visuals. Now tell them that once you are done, you have to present it to the audience that this was the topic given to you and you have believed in all these things and you can handle questions. So by using one way and giving the team to present, they will get into an interactive discussion. The moment they get into an interactive discussions, what will happen is they will get into that kind of a thought where they're able to do and deliver. That I got something in my hand with a topic, with a known way of projects, and I am delivering it right there. You can give a group project, like I used to do an activity called Bright Spark, which is kind of a unique activity. It runs on for 2 hours, and then they have to get into a group to do that project. Now that negotiation I used to leave it up to them, and it ultimately become a collaborative activities. Okay, as I said, we can give them projects from the Bright Spark activity, and we can do collaborative activities also, so that they all come together and do this activity as one team unit. Why? Active engagement benefits. Because the more, adults one of the primary aspects what I have understood from the workshop that I've delivered is the more actively they are engaged throughout the day, the more better is their learning. That is how they learn more. Whether you do a collaborative activities, whether you do an interactive discussions, whether you do a group project, or even you ask the team to present on a specific topic, they get into that kind of a zone. Now, level 7 is providing feedback. When I say level 7 is providing feedback, it all speaks about that. So I have set the clear goal, I have gained the attention, I have done a recalling knowledge, I've got into an delivering of the content, I've got into giving them an understanding of the activities that I can do to ensure engagement. Now the activity has happened. I have to provide a feedback, right? Typically, what I do is before the workshop starts, I say there will be a lot of activities and role plays and simulations and collaborative activities. I would love to give a feedback. So can you tell me what kind of feedback do you like? Would you want to have a feedback which is direct and blunt, or do you want a feedback which is kind of wrapped up and where positive and negative are both said? So what I'm doing, I'm trying to give a feedback after an activity. What is the importance of a constructive feedback? It reinforces learning. You're not speaking anything outside. You're not there to give a character feedback. You're not there to give a personality feedback. You're not there to give a behavioral feedback. So I do a disclaimer like this. I'm not here to give a feedback on your performances. I'm here to give you feedback on how did you perform in this activity right now. Now, when you do that, it reinforces learning. It motivates improvement in learner. It is very specific and actionable. So next time when they do an activity, like I can share one of the things that I typically do. So when I'm doing, let's say I'm doing an interviewing skills workshop and I'm trying to grade them, or when I'm doing a train the trainer workshop, when teach backs are happening, before the teach back starts or before the interviewing role play starts, I say, do you want me to go feedback on individual basis, or do you want me to go back as a overall feedback at the end of everyone? They will tell you what kind of feedback they would like and stick to it. And the timeliness of the feedback. There are some times where you have to stop the group from an activity and say, this happens specifically when you're doing group projects or group activities or collaborative activities. Collaborative activities, when you see somebody is not participating at all, or when you see somebody's participating level is very high up, in those cases, what you do is you try to give a feedback. So the timeliness of the feedback matters. I mean, you shouldn't do like, okay, complete all the activities, then I'll give you feedback at the end of the day. No. After every feedback, every activity, every discussion point, just go with the feedback. Now, so I have asked for their performances. I've given a feedback of their performances. Now I'm assessing their performances. So how can I assess their performance? I can assess their performance by diverse assessment methods. I can create a quiz. I can create a test. I can also do pre and post. I can also do project-based assessment. So I give them a project. Once they complete, we then assess them. Typically in a customer service training workshops, in typically a 2-day workshop, what we do is we give them a project at the end of day 1, and they have to present when they come the next morning. Now, in that next morning, by doing a project-based assessment, what happens is it does a recap of the learning of day 1, as well as we are able to assess their level of knowledges. Okay, again, why? Learner experience, learner engagement, learner motivation, knowledge transfer, everything. The last one is enhancing retention and transfer. We have done everything. We have set the agenda, we have gained the attention, we have done recalling of knowledge, we have delivered the workshop, we have done the activities, we have used visual mediums, everything. Now we are on the last where the retention is higher and the transfer of knowledge is happening. Varied facilitation techniques. You can use like a group summary by the end of the workshop. You can go ahead and say, okay, one learning takeaway from this workshop. You can create an action plan sheet and give it to them and they can fill it up. Varied teaching or training techniques. using reinforcing learning, doing a pre and post workshop test, or go to some other way which actually enhances the adaptability. Getting into the momentum of everything, what we are looking at is we are looking at the long-term impact on learners. So effective facilitation, impact on future learning, professional development, these all happens because of this 9 steps, because it goes with that kind of a notion. It is a point of discussion where we think, will this work? Trust me when I tell you, I have done this. But yeah, I go at a bit conventional way. I make a note of it, and after every Gagné's level, I write what will I do. Simple one-liners, because I know what I'm going to do. It has given me those impact on future learning. There is repeat business all about, and end of the day, the learner experience. And as I said at the beginning of this particular session, that it's all about learner experience. Adult learning is all about learner's experience. That is what we are talking about. And to conclude this particular session, Gagné's 9 level of facilitation offers a structured approach to improve training practices and outcomes. It enhances learner experiences by, applying those levels at an effective, so that you significantly increase the learner engagement and interaction, whether it is in person, whether it is virtual. You improve the retention of knowledge and also the transfer of knowledge, because if they retain, see, when will they able to transfer the knowledge to application? Only when they retain it. When will they retain it? If they understand it. When will they understand it? If they are motivated about it. When will they motivate to learn more? When they are engaged. So it goes into a cycle. In that way, I come to the end of this particular session. Hope you have liked it. If you have any more questions, do call us to our channel or write a note. How did you like it? With that note, thank you and wish you all the best.